Here's another installment of the channeling project. We are here. You may begin.
Hi, thank you for being here today. What is the nature of change?
We are fond of saying that change is the singular constant in the universe, for without change there is no growth or evolution, no learning, there is only stagnation. And oftentimes for humans, or beings incarnated in a human form, it is a challenge to face the reality that change is a constant in your lives. Your existence here would be easier if you were able to embrace the momentum that change can bring you instead of being resistant to it, for that creates friction. Without change, the caterpillar does not become a butterfly. Without change, the tadpole does not become a frog. Without change, the child does not become an adult. So, in a way, the nature of change is about transformation. It is about a thing becoming something new or something different. This principle applies not only to individual organisms, this also applies to larger systems. And yes, there is also the presence of the possibility of a change that you might label as negative or entropic, in that it doesn't foster growth, but rather contraction as opposed to expansion. So the nature of change is literally to transform something, someone, some situation in some form or another. We've provided you with some examples and hope those are helpful to you.
Yes, thank you so much. What is the deeper meaning behind the current global transformations?
Like you, your planet has been on her own journey of growth and development. One of the ways for a planetary body or a quantum of consciousness large enough to be a planet in the physical dimension, one of those options is to find a way to be of service. And what better way for the planetary awareness to be of service than to be a place that will facilitate the growth of many souls. Of many souls. And so for your planet, that is the assignment that was chosen freely for, like every individual human. No matter the quantum of consciousness, there is always free will choice. The choice to be or experience something other than what one is currently experiencing. Your planet has a loving, caring nature. Your planet is a light. Your planet is wise and also weary. So understand that although the decision was made to be home to other types of intelligent or expressions of the higher intelligence, is a more apt way of putting that. There does come a time where she too needs your support. And that time is quickly drawing near. Whether there will be enough energy to bring about the shift that everyone is looking forward to remains to be seen. We encourage each and every one of you to maybe show a little more appreciation to your home for the time being and honor her in more concrete ways than you currently do. That will support her endeavors. And bring you closer to your own goal of transforming yourself into a more aligned expression of your true nature. That is what we would say about that.
And will these changes lead us towards a more conscious and unified world? And if so, how?
As a collective, humanity is most identified now with an adolescent teenager, yes, in the later years of that rebellious process, but nevertheless still an adolescent that is rebelling against what it perceives as oppressive authority, all these rules. So as humanity as a collective makes its way into early adulthood, it is hoped that there will also be a shift in the general consciousness of your world that will allow for a movement towards more peace and more harmonious coexistence. Most of you, however, are still caught up in the dance of competition, of adversarial conflict, of, as you would say, getting yours first. And none of this is supportive of the primary goal, which was a peaceful planet filled with individuals that understood they were part of a greater whole and who functioned in a more harmonious way with each other. You ask how this can come to be, and we remind you that no matter what we would say to you here, fundamentally it comes down to the exercise of your own individual free will choices to determine when and whether you achieve this goal. We've said it before, and we will repeat ourselves again here. Every tiny decision made for or on behalf of a higher outcome for your collective as well as for the planet does make a difference. There is an organic process that is occurring at this time that cannot be stopped or interfered with, is the best way to say that. There is an organic process of unfoldment at the planetary level that is taking place at this time. As she moves more towards her own goal, which is to become a brilliant light in the sky, as she moves toward the goal of embodying more of her own light here, you, as residents of this world, will be tasked to be able to hold more of your own light as well. This synergistic process is what will eventually bring about what you are calling this permanent change that will lead to a greater expression of peace and harmony on your planet. The exact particulars of how this process will come about is dependent upon many variables, as many variables as there are individuals currently incarnated on the planet. And so we say to you, mind your own choices, do the best you can in your world to make your part of the world better. And hopefully that vibration will spread out in ever-widening circles that will allow for a greater movement or more progress in the direction of the goal that so many of you say you desire. And that is what we would say about that.
Thank you. How can one use their spiritual gifts to contribute to positive change in the world?
We would amend that question by saying, how can one be a positive change in the world? For by using the term spiritual gifts, that assumes that some people have them and some people don't. And we know you are well aware of the fact that we all are created in the same way. So how can you bring forth the greatest potential of your own individual self as God expressing into this world? How can you as an individual bring that forth in a way that contributes to the positive change? It may not require the accessing of any of your soul level vibrations. It could be as simple as, from your heart space, focusing always on having compassion for the other and continuing to attempt to engage with those you meet on the street, even if only for the instantaneous exchange of someone looking up from their phone long enough to look you in the eye and you acknowledge their presence with a glance back, or a smile to someone who is serving you your food, or perhaps you are moved to help another who is incapable of helping themselves. Visiting with older people, working at a shelter for pets, or even cleaning the trash out of your local park. All of these things contribute to the betterment of the whole, do they not?
Yes, they do. Thank you. Can you discuss what inner work is needed to prepare for the upcoming shifts?
Probably the most important task set before each and every one of you is to gain more confidence in your own connection to your own divinity, to learn to trust those impulses so that you will act upon them without question. And we would say this is probably your most important assignment at this time. You can begin this process by paying more attention to what is going on in your own physical body. Are you feeling an uneasiness in your stomach when you enter a room? Pay attention to that and see if you can identify where that is coming from or why you are feeling that feeling. Becoming more aware of your input from your soul to your physical vehicle is probably going to be your greatest asset moving forward. It will allow you to determine whether or when you need to relocate or leave a job or go get another job, speak to another person. The impulses can vary. Your task is to follow them so that over time you can learn to recognize when it is your higher guidance that is speaking to you, attempting to get your attention, and struggling to find ways to get you to respond. It is as if there is a circuit that is designed to be connected But for many of you, for most of you, the circuit's broken, or the wires are crossed and the signals are not coming clear, primarily because of the belief systems or the thoughts that you have built up around your own perceived separation from an aspect of your own being that is larger than your physical vehicle and greater in awareness than your human mind is. So we would encourage you to focus your efforts on gaining the confidence and strength to be able to move according to your own impulses, even in the face of contradictory physical evidence.
Thank you. How can one cultivate greater compassion and understanding towards others during times of upheaval?
If you are able to hold in your mind the thought that that other person is reflecting something to you, and if you are also able to grasp the concept that within each and every one of you there is a spark of light that animates your form, no matter the outward expression of the personality at the human level, within that being there is light. You can choose to acknowledge the light within the other person without also accepting, yes, without also accepting their actions. Does this make sense? So you focus not on the activities of the individual, but rather on the light that is within them, that perhaps at any moment they are not aware of themselves, for they are indeed deeply asleep still. They are not yet awake. They are not aware of their own light and divinity, and therefore they are less likely to be able to perceive that within the other. So they tend to respond from a place of need or lack as opposed to compassion and understanding.
Thank you. What guidance can one receive from their spiritual practice regarding the current world events?
It is possible for you to choose to tune in every day in your meditative state to the planetary intelligence, the being that is your planet. Perhaps you go on a journey where you meet a personification of your planet and ask her, for indeed this is a feminine planet. The gender of Earth is female. The gender of Mars would be male, for an example. So if you ask your planet how she is or what does she need from you, you may be interested to hear that she does have a request of you, and perhaps that would surprise you. For you are as inextricably linked to her journey as she is to yours. So again, this concept of oneness that you hear about all the time doesn't only apply to you as a human collective or you as part of a great race of beings of light that have incarnated here. Do not overlook the fact that your planet as well is a being and is in need of your inquiry and your support. The sense here is if you are able to build your link with her consciousness now, we are speaking of the consciousness of the planet, not necessarily of you go out in nature and you feel the energy of nature. That is a different experience that we are talking to you about, as opposed to you directly engaging with the consciousness of the planet herself. You can use your imagination to see her in whatever form you choose, and then have a conversation, a dialogue with that essence, understanding that what you are having is a very real interaction with another aspect of consciousness, which, in the final analysis, yes, we agree, is also part of the collective oneness. But for purposes of this exercise, you can separate that out in order to receive or to engage in a conversation with her. This will deepen your connection to that layer of consciousness and may afford you some greater insight into the process that she is currently engaged in and where she is in that process. For just as with giving birth to something, there is a trajectory, there are different stages to the process, the same thing holds true for what is happening with your planet right now. She is very definitely in a major transition and can use any help that any of you would choose to give her. So we hope this makes sense to you.
Yes, thank you. What spiritual lessons can we learn from the challenges facing our planet?
Well, we would say that as a collective, you will soon find out what those lessons are. It is a matter of, we would say, if we were going to break them down into simple lessons, we would say that one of them is understanding that you are responsible for the choices you make or don't make, and that there is no avoiding the ramifications of those choices. And all of you are aware that if you wish to experience something different, you must first take a different action in your own world in order to facilitate that. The primary lesson here is that you were indeed given a task as stewards of a place that was pristine and pure. And yet, over time, your human nature was distorted, and you forgot your reason for being on this planet. In addition to all the lessons that you could learn in exchange for that opportunity, you were also to steward or to care for the classroom that you found yourself in. And for the most part, we would say that this has been an issue since very early on in your evolution. There are pockets of people that do tend to live more consciously in harmony and alignment with the rhythms, the natural rhythms of the earth. But for the most part, you both ignore those rhythms and cycles, and you continue to act in destructive ways, as we mentioned earlier, somewhat like a rebellious adolescent, for you are no longer children as far as the evolution of your collective consciousness goes. You are well past that toddler stage. You are entering early adulthood, and you still are making decisions individually and collectively that cause direct harm to your own home. And you would be best served by finding ways to do things differently. We understand you have needs. We understand you wish to be comfortable. We understand that it is a challenge oftentimes for you to turn away from some of the temptations that are there, or you do have as part of your nature, part of your very nature, there is a human compulsion to acquire, whether there is a need or not. These types of behaviors are things that are counterproductive to the overall healing of both the planet and the people.
Thank you. So, how can we deepen our connection to the natural world to act as stewards of the earth during times of change?
Well, if you had the courage, it would be to unplug yourself from all of the grids that you are currently involved in. You would move away from your technology. You might even experiment with not exposing yourself to incandescent light. In other words, living more in rhythm with the natural light of wherever you are, which you might find very jarring because the rhythms of your body that are naturally calibrated to the planet have been altered over time since the introduction of your electricity. This has extended the amount of time you spend exposed to light, which has disrupted your natural sleep cycle, which then has taken you out of rhythm with how the planet moves. So the simple task of sleeping when there is no light or waking when there is would be an experiment that would provide you with great insight. Just that one thing. You can use your intention, again, to connect directly with the consciousness of the planet and ask of her what it is that you can do for your own deepening of that connection. What would the planet say to you? What advice would she give you? That will be unique for every person. What we gave you was an example of an experiment that would bring you more in alignment with the natural rhythms of the planet if the experiment with the electricity were something one would choose to pursue. However, for most of you, that would be a very unnerving and not likely to bear fruit. You would probably not be able to sustain that practice for very long. To be disconnected from both your technology and your light. These are things you've become dependent upon over time. And at this point, it is not likely you would be able to live without them. But these are things, should you choose to explore them, would facilitate a deepening connection with the planet.
Thank you. John Lennon, a prominent activist for world peace, once said, quote, "A dream you dream alone is only a dream. A dream you dream together is reality," end quote. Can you please talk about how this perspective is so important during times of planetary transformation?
The quote, by its very nature, gives the explanation of whether one feels separate from or included with others. For indeed, if you continue in fractured fragments to cobble together a dream for the collective, that's not as effective as you coming together in groups and then finding other groups similarly motivated to where you build an ever widening group of beings with a singular goal of realizing the dream for this planet, which is a return to a more pristine, a more peaceful, more harmonious way of being in the world. So if you have within your heart that singular dream of wishing this is how the planet evolves, then seek out other people with the same motivation. And together, perhaps, your collective intention or desire can actually be a seed for something that does facilitate change in a meaningful way at this time on the planet.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing with us today. Do you have any more you'd like to share before we end today?
We always ask that you contemplate this. Within even the darkest of night, there is light. It does not have to be a large, bright light in order to impact that space. Each of you is like a beacon, and your light does go forth out into the universe. Do not think for a single moment that we are not aware of your light and the efforts that you put forth to make this world a brighter place, both literally and figuratively. We would encourage you to focus on your own light, strengthening that connection and broadcasting that out into the world in as cohesive a way as you can. The human mind wants to spend time and energy figuring out how things are going to unfold. And we would tell you that is a waste of both your time and your energy. Surrender the how to the greater aspects of the Creator, for that is not your specific purpose here. You are bringers of light. You are the light that has been sent here to assist in this great transition. Join with others that think as you do, that act in ways that may not be commonly understood by the masses at this time. Support each other in whatever way that you can, giving comfort and encouragement whenever possible. Do that also for yourselves, and know that you are a precious expression of divinity, and that you do have both a place and a purpose. Otherwise, you would not be incarnated here at this time. You would be somewhere else. By virtue of the fact that you are here listening to our words, we can say to you that you are exactly where you are meant to be, at exactly the right time to be there. So be fully present in this moment and acknowledge, at least to yourself within yourself, that you are light and that you are an expression of the divine in human form. Move forward together as a collective, for indeed you are singular in your very nature, even though most of you, buy the illusion that you are separated from each other. You have more in common with each other than you have that separates you. You all have a desire to love and be loved, to be acknowledged, to give and to receive in a meaningful way the recognition of your own existence here as a human being. We would encourage you to not wall yourselves off from each other, to open yourselves back up to acknowledging the presence of the other, even if it is only for that moment that you look up and glance and acknowledge the presence of that other being. These small gestures can make a huge difference. And you may never understand the impact that may have on the other person, but know that it does change something within them. We thank you again for this opportunity to step forward in this way, and we look forward to continuing our conversation. And for now, be at peace.
Thank you.
This brings us to the close of another conversation with Infinite Awareness. We hope you derived benefit from it. If you found value, please share it with 2 other people. While you're here, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the Channeling Project installments. We welcome any comments you may have. Please drop them below this video. And if you have any questions, you can leave them there as well. You may hear them answered on another installment of the Channeling Project.